Hi, everybody. So, I hate that sometimes I film these videos and I'm flipped the other way. I guess that's where we're at. But welcome to Unit 2. I'm so excited. We made it through our first unit, the War Unit, where we discussed issues related to war, right? Conflict between humans that is caused by humans and emerged by humans. And now we are moving on to our next unit in our end of the world theme. And this one is extremely different. This one is plague. Plague, most of us went over this at the beginning of the year, but some of you are new. Plague is just another way to say the word illness. And specifically, it's any kind of mass illness, so something that affects a great deal of people. But we will be talking about illness more generally as it relates to individuals. However, many of you are aware that we are in a time when illness that affects a great deal of people is on everyone's minds for a lot of reasons. So, because we're going to be talking about plague and about illness, we will do the same structure that we did last time. We will have first an introductory week, followed by a current events week, followed by a literature week, and finally a writing week. Unfortunately, our intro week is being cut a little short because we had state tests, but what we are going to look at is history of particularly deadly and devastating world plagues. We are certainly in a time of a great pandemic, but this has happened before many times, and often to even more deadly and devastating consequence. So we will start with the biblical plagues of Exodus and move into where we most get the word plague, the idea of the bubonic plague from the 1300s that has recently had a little bit of a resurgence. And then move into a couple American plagues that have troubled our history as a country from our founding. Next week we'll get into current events, so as you might be able to guess, that's going to be decidedly related to COVID. Then we'll look at some literature, and then we will move into writing. In terms of literature, we'll of course look at poetry that week, but I also want to make you aware of the fact that we are again reading a novel. This novel is called Station 11. Much like Girl with All the Gifts, it came out not terribly long ago. It came out more recently, actually, than Girl with All the Gifts. This novel is about a world that has been struck by an incredibly deadly pandemic, and very few people remain, and the group that remains in this context is a traveling Shakespeare group. And they used to perform for a great deal of people, and now there are not a great deal of people to perform for. So I think it'll be very interesting. I hope that you like it. Again, it's like more recent, more contemporary, so it's not going to be a situation like the Odyssey where it's very rewarding, but maybe a little bit more difficult. This should be very readable. We'll take the same pace that we did last time, so 5 chapters a night. Make sure that you're staying on top of your reading. There will be reading quizzes every day. Station 11. Looking forward to it. All right, and finally, let's get to our question. This is roughly the same question that we had with the War Unit, but the question is, what do responses to illness reveal about our values as a society, as individuals, right? What do we think of when we think about illness, especially illness that affects a great deal of people? Do we think of illness as something that we need to provide care for? Do we think of illness as something that is some kind of a punishment, like you behaved badly, or you are a naturally weaker person and that's why you became sick? Do we look at it as a medical issue? And then finally, kind of like, do we look at this as an issue of loss, right? We often think of plague and sickness as something that is a great sadness, and often does not result in the person still being alive. So there are a lot of questions to look at in terms of like, how do we think about illness? How do we perceive people who are ill, especially for long periods of time? There are going to be a lot of things to explore with this, and I'm looking forward to exploring it with you guys. So, Plague Unit, get excited. I will see you guys later in the lesson. We've got a lot of changes happening. I will explain them to you in other videos. This is going to be a particularly important Nearpod, so stay tuned. Bye, guys.